Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Stars Championship Series final rounds. I'm so excited to be back with you guys here today on day 2. Caleb, I'm here joined with Caleb and Adrian Reneden. How's the day going for you guys?
Yeah, it's not bad. The weekend as a whole has been pretty good. So we've yesterday we qualified and it was a good day, right? Being back under the lights, I think, always adds a little bit of excitement to events like this. As we obviously have our first sessions going on, but yesterday qualifying went great. The pro qualifying for the shifter drivers was honestly one of the most interesting ones that we saw throughout the weekend. And again, we saw AJ put 2 tenths on the field, and as we're on that topic, one of those drivers joining us here as well for the pre-race show, Adrian Reneden, and we're going to dive into that. But yeah, yesterday was a great day, and again, we saw a lot of great racing action throughout it. But Adrian, that we have you, good afternoon to you. Hopefully you're having a good weekend up to this point. I know it's your first time here at Trackhouse Motorplex, and you've been watching some of your younger drivers, I'm sure, and you've been out there on the racetrack. What have you thought of the weekend so far? What do you thought here of Mooresville, North Carolina?
Yeah, first I'm really happy to be there with the opportunity that I get to drive again, and again a new track for me. I need to learn really quick in the Star Championship because we don't have a lot of practice. But then I managed to make a quite great qualifying with P4, so we are still in the fight for the championship. This is the most important, and yeah, I think more I will drive and more will be better for the race.
So again, practice was one of the things that we were talking about yesterday, and one of the things that you mentioned already this morning. How difficult is it, right? You only have 3 sessions, a place that you've never been to before, a track that you're trying to learn. How is that? 3 sessions that you do get. How do you maximize, getting the right amount of data that you need?
I think for the 95% of the driver, it's good because they know the track, especially in pro, because they drive since maybe they are little. For my side, it's a bit more difficult, but I will not complain. It's like this. Yeah, you need to make everything really quick because the worst is not for me that there is only 3 sessions, but just there are 7 minutes. Just to go out of the pit and to go on the line, it's only 6 minutes left, so maybe 6-7 laps. This is the most difficult to find the good pocket with the engine, the setup, and also for me to learn the track. And especially this week, like I begin to learn the track, and when we go to the quali, was on the night, so all the things you learn during the day change a bit, and so you have to manage really quick to put a good lap because qualifying is like 50% of the weekend. So at the end, I'm quite happy of this, and more I will drive, more I will learn, and it will be better again.
What have you thought about night racing so far? I know it's probably been quite some time since you've raced under the lights. How is it?
Yeah, it's quite funny. I made it a few times with the 24 hours of Le Mans in karting. It's quite nice, I think, to watch, even for the people who are there and watching on the live. But yeah, to drive is pretty cool. They change a lot. Just need to adapt for me. I make it yesterday, a bit tonight again, and for tomorrow we'll be ready.
And going by on 2025 as a whole, right? We started back in Houston for the SCUSA Pro Tour. Now that you're kind of towards the end of the regular season here, only one-off events, Supernats next on your list. What have you thought about your first year? Being in the States, being here for a good number of races, going to different tracks all over the country, right? From the South all the way up to the Midwest, to the East Coast. What have you thought about your first year in the States?
Apart from karting, I really like this country because the mentality for me is better than my country, so I really like it. On the racing side, I knew that with the chassis Saudi I will be in a good package to make something good. Then I trust myself also to be ready for the race, and I think all the race I finish, I stay in the top 4, top 5 in the final. Only in Houston we got a problem, but Cincinnati was not the best weekend for myself and still finished P4. Then 2 wins in the Stars, and some random things happened in the SCUSA last time in Newcastle, but the pace was really good. So yeah, now that I discover everything, I hope to race next year and to be in a really good position and to know exactly what to make with less time losing to learn the track, know the team, the engine, etc.
And funny enough, you weren't even supposed to be here this weekend, right? We weren't supposed to be sitting here having this conversation because you weren't set to start a Stars race in 2025. But again, you go out there in Newcastle, you win. What kind of took you guys back to Earthquake to race, and then obviously you won 2 in a row.
At the beginning, even the two races in Orlando, I think, my contract was make it a bit late, so we couldn't make it. Then we make the race in Houston was pretty great. Cincinnati a bit difficult, and we just say, oh, the next cruiser race is Newcastle. There is the Star Championship in Newcastle. We can make it to prepare. And as we don't play the championship, we don't do the first session, the first heat. And then I win, and I watched to the regulation that there is a drop event. So we spoke to my team and said, oh, at least we can make Earthquake, make one race more for me also to drive. And if it's good, maybe we can play the championship. Then I win again in Earthquake. So now I'm there to win the championship.
And again, you've, for those that don't know, you were a KZ2 world champion, right? Or World Cup winner, whatever. They won WSK, I believe, was when you got it, right?
I win a lot of WSK, KZ2 European champion.
Okay. So even then, you've won a lot of international championships, if you will. This year's been different, right? Because I feel like in those European championships, multiple practice and whatnot, how hard is it to be in this position today, to be in that championship fight this weekend?
It's quite difficult because also the guy who will play the championships are Morgato and Myers, two really good drivers. And I feel a bit of tension in going to this race because for sure everybody saw that these two fight a bit. Me, I'm there also playing the championship, so there will be a lot of opportunity but a lot of risk. So I will try to use my experience to manage this and don't over push, but don't be too lazy behind and too much waiting, because this will not be my plan. I don't want to wait them to make something. I want to make my race, and then we see.
And we talked a little about the qualifying yesterday as well. AJ had you guys covered by about 2/10. Talk about that. He's obviously had a good number of times, and actually, we're going to talk about that later on today. Quick commercial break from our side. We'll be right back and continue our conversation here with Adrian. Thank you, guys.
I'm really starting to like this go-karting thing.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, can I show you this cute dress I just got?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, it's so cute.
I just love shopping.
I love shopping too.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, did you guys say you like shopping?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, dude, I have the perfect place to do that at. ShopPayCara.com. At ShopPayCara.com, you can get free shipping on orders $200 or more. You can get anything you want, like MXC rims, gloves, rib vests, shoes, anything that you need, all at ShopPayCara.com.
Who is he talking to?
No idea.
But we're gonna have to check it out. Sounds like a great deal.
Sure does.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Cat food marketing. $9.99 a month.
Dude, Caleb, wake up. Dude, we're live in 5 minutes. Let's go. Come on. What are you doing?
Dude, I'm so sorry. Xander had me in a cat food marketing meeting till like 2 a.m. last night.
Come on, man.
Do you have anything I can drink?
Dude, I got the perfect thing for you. Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Perico, non-GMO, gluten-free, kosher, magnesium, B12, B6,
Yeah, it's good.
B5, biotin, and zero sugar? Pericazo! Try Perico, made with natural ingredients, organic caffeine, and supports your metabolism. Try the new official energy drink of Kart Chaser.
Welcome back here as we watch our pro masters out there on the racetrack. And again, still joined here by Adrian Reneden. Honestly, I had the question before we went to commercial break. I just lost it. But, you know, being here coming into the weekend, I was going into the sense of qualifying. I just remembered. But AJ had you guys covered by about 2/10. And speaking on it last night, not a bad qualifying on your behalf, right? You're starting on the second row, starting fourth to be exact. Just talk a little bit about the qualifying and where do you guys think are missing that last little bit of time to kind of get to AJ?
Sure, AJ is always really fast in qualifying. I think he make all the race I made, he was or on pole or really fast. So honestly, I knew that I can't beat him for the moment in the quali because we don't find the type of setup to make one really good lap. We are really better on the fuel racing distance. But then I drove a bit with Josh in the quali, and my team, he was behind me, so my team saw some little tips that I can, me myself as driver, make better. So I will try now, and to find the little time that I missed to the front. But sure, P4 is still good, and I think for the first hit to be on the
now
outside
king of the
row
castle,
is
and now
better.
winner at the earthquake.
So now,
you felt
what happened.
confident in this piece. It's the moment you got.
Yeah, so that was actually some of your highlights there from the last round, and the boys just spoiled it. I'll let you finish your point like you were talking about of preparing for that long run pace.
Yeah, so now we need to see the pace during one full hit. Like all the race, I'm more confident on it, but still to manage the pace of the other, I don't know what they will make. And I need to first to make a good start, don't get trapped somewhere with someone, and then give all my best to finish in front.
Well, that being said, let's take a look back to those 2 rounds where you've had so much success, and we'll take a moment to listen
now,
in on
king of the castle,
how
now
nicely
winner
those
at
first
the
rounds have
earthquake.
treated
You felt confident in this piece. It's the moment you got behind the wheel. Has that been the case?
Yeah, I told since the beginning of the year, the package is really great. Just miss some luck sometime, it's racing, but now I prove that the package is maybe the best, if not. And really, really happy of all the work for the team. Just unbelievable the chance they give me, so I'm really proud to be with them, and this victory is for us. I want to thank all my team, Velocity Racing, Ruben, Flo, my mechanic, my engine tuner, Carlos, and a special shout out to the guy who fixed my chassis, was bent after the first hit.
How about that? Congratulations, Adrian.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was the 2 rounds before getting here this weekend. Obviously, championship fight. We're looking at the points here right in front of us. Only 15 points in between yourself, Mateus, and obviously AJ is going to be right there, right? Only 45 points for him. Championship, what do you need to do to come out of this weekend with number 1 on your go-kart?
When you win, you're sure you are first in the championship, but then we have to make race by race, Moto 1, and after Moto 2, then the final, because we score points every time. Yeah, sure the target is finish in front of Mateus and AJ, even if we are 4, 5, and 6, because I played championship with them, but I don't want to focus too much on point. I just want to prepare my final, because there is more point, like I do in the other race, that we test something. Even to me, I continue to learn the track in the moto, but I still need to finish in front to score point and to have more easy way to go in the final.
Well, there you guys have him. Adrian, thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to let you guys enjoy the sights and sounds of our KZ Masters and Super Masters class. We'll be right back with a little more.
welcome back. We've let go of Adrian. I'm back here with Caleb, ready to talk about some racing as we watch the KZ Masters and the Super Masters drive off the track after their warm-up session. Let's talk about some KA Juniors, Caleb. Let's talk about the championship as we go into the
Yeah, championship this weekend looking pretty close, right? Travis Pettit, John Antonino came into the weekend only 31 points separate. And again, we're diving into this because the KZ Masters and the Super Masters are done and dusted. KA Junior getting set to go out. But like you said, when you talk championship, Travis Pettit, John Antonino, very, very close on points at the start of the weekend. Tristan Murphy as well, 45 points. One of the interesting parts about a lot of these qualifying or a lot of these championships is, we have realistically about 6 drivers within the championship fight that are only 100 points. Again, we talked about main event wins where it's only 200 points, or it's 200 points to take at the end of it. So when you have 6 different guys that come into the weekend with 97 points apart in between them all, that's the hard part. And actually, we were just a little bit mistaken. Micro Swift is the next class out, so all good, but. Again, that championship as well has been super close all year long, right? Slate Harrell leads the championship by only 7 points over Brody Stoffel, and those two drivers have gone back and forth all year long. We saw the highlight clips yesterday on that flashback, Haley. It's been very close in between all those different classes. And yesterday in the qualifying session, when you look back at what we saw Thursday, there was a lot of games being played out there, right? Drivers didn't want to lead. They didn't want to, stick behind for all too long. So it was a very, very messy qualifying from what me and Xander said into what we saw. I think today we're going to see, we're going racing today, right? Warm up, and we're ready to go racing here and later on today, if you will.
Yeah, here at Stars, you get points for the heat races too. So you get 100 for each, and then you get 200 for the final. That's correct, Caleb? I believe so.
I believe we're at 50, if I'm not mistaken. 100 for the pre-final, so 50, 50, and 100. And I'll double check on that as well as we go on. But I think that might be correct of what we see, and I'll get official confirmation. But again, there's a lot of points up for grabs, like you mentioned, right? So the heats have just as much weight, and these classes are very big, right? We talked about 30 drivers, 29 drivers in each class. So, to finish at the front, that's a huge points haul with all the competition that we have. Slate and Brody, they're starting on row number 4. So that's, again, given with the qualifying that we saw yesterday and a lot of drivers that are still within the mix. So we're going to see, I think, very interesting races, and everything counts, right? Everything is counted throughout the year.
King of the
every
castle,
little point that you
now
can get,
winner.
every point that you can get this weekend is super important.
Yeah, Slate's one of those drivers. We see him on the national scene often, and he's here from Trackhouse. He lives here. We see him out here all the time, and he's always very quick. He had a great performance out in Miami Grands, and here I think we're going to see some more speed from him. However, back yesterday in qualifying, he was 3/10 off the pace, and I believe he qualified down to 7. That might have some championship implications later on in the day if he's not able to fight there at the starts and get up there as fast as he needs to.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mentioned as well, right? Messy qualifying, 3/10, and I really truly believe that nobody was really able to set in a fast lap. I think that the qualifying lap that we saw wasn't the fastest available out there for our Micro Swift drivers, and I think they're going to be looking for. They're probably going to go faster throughout the races today, I think, than what they did in qualifying. So, yeah, it's huge. The lucky part for Slate, again, teammate now, Brody Stoffel is going to start right next to him down in 8th, I believe. So they're going to be very close to each other on the racetrack. And again, these young boys and girls have given us some great racing action throughout the year, right? They've showed us great race pace, great racecraft, if you will. That's the word I was looking for initially. So we're going to see a lot of that later on today, Haley.
Speaking of their racecraft, this is their last shot at taking home this championship. It's the last of our big 3 this season. Do we think that we're going to see them get a little bit more, what's the word?
Antsy, if you will.
Antsy,
yeah, I mean,
these wins to take home this prize.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, when you kind of look at the year that we've had, right? SCUSA, we already saw a championship weekend there, and looking back at that weekend, I would say it was maybe a little bit antsy, right? Within the top 5, USPKS, same deal. Whenever we were down at Newcastle for the last of their championships, and nerves are high this weekend, right? And drivers are in it to win races, but also to win championships at the end of the year, right? Those hardwares, the trophy that you can take up before you move up to Mini, that's always the satisfying part of being a racing driver. And this is why these kids are in this sport, right? To come out here to win races, to win championships as well. So if you want to talk about antsiness, desperation, if you will, I think we might see a little bit of moves. I think Saturday or Friday, everything's a day ahead. Been making that mistake all weekend long, right? But yeah, I think today isn't the day for that. Maybe if you need that tomorrow, main event. But today is really about keeping your nose clean, getting as many points as you can.
And speaking of these little drivers, they're so young. They don't have as much experience under their belt changing their driving to match what's going on with the track. Do we think that as the day goes on and it starts to cool off later on, that we might see them start to struggle a little bit more than we did yesterday?
I think the teams are well ahead of that. Again, conditions are cooler, and for these young drivers, the important part for them is giving the right feedback back to their mechanics, to their coaches, giving that right feedback. That's important, right? Because, again, the coaches can be out there and they can be looking at the data, they can be looking at what the driver is doing out there on the track, but they don't feel what the kart is doing exactly. So giving that right feedback for these young drivers at only 8, 9 years old, that's important. That's one of the most important parts of it, right? So you can make the changes and you can make the right changes moving forward. So yeah, experience. A lot of these drivers have been in it for maybe 3 years in the Microsoft class, 2 years, if you will. And yeah, the critical part of it all is just giving the right feedback, making sure you're giving the right information to the coaches, to the drivers, to understand what you're feeling. What is oversteer? What is understeer? You know, all those little things. I'm sliding here. Maybe the tire pressure was a little bit high. That's always very little things like that, or things that can make and break a weekend of whether you have the pace or not. And that all falls down to, you know, these 8 and 9-year-old drivers that have to give that right feedback and understand a lot about driving more than you would in an own, you know, road car, if you will. Just understanding what these if you will 190-pound karts are doing. These are actually even lighter than that, but yeah, just understanding every little piece of technicality that the karts are doing out here.
Technically speaking, even whenever the drivers fully aren't able to convey everything that they're feeling, there's certain things that the mechanics on the fence line can see. And as we're watching it wind down here, let's talk about the drivers that are on track. We've got Brody Stoffel, Lennox Lockhart. Let's break down their season so far.
Yeah, I mean, for Slate Harrell, right, has always been up at the front, has gotten some race wins already to his name. And again, we've seen Stars, right? They've been really, really consistent in every single season that we go to. Slate Harrell, whenever we were here at Trackhouse Motorplex for the United States Pro Kart Series, he was competitive. He was up at the front with now teammate Brody Stoffel. Liam Francisco, another driver that's on our screen. He just won here 2 weeks ago, and you know, perhaps coming in this weekend, he's one of the favorites to just win the race outright. Got a pole position over at Earthquake. Again, Liam, very, very competitive. Brody Stoffel as well, right? He's been kind of all over the country, racing regionals, racing all over, and just being in the seat, developing a whole lot as a driver throughout the year. And again, got his first national podium at the start of the year, and then, you know, you come to the point where that's not good enough at the end of the year, right? Whenever you were happy about a podium at the start of the year, and that's simply not good enough now when we're at the year and when you're a SCUSA Pro Tour champion, right? Race wins. That's, you know, the end goal every single time you hit the racetrack. That's the end goal every time that you're out there within those white lines. So again, it shows you the progression that these drivers have had. Mason Brody is a big one too, that again is moving teams. And that's another point to make about Brody Stoffel, right? First weekend with RPM, first weekend on the Nitro kart, taking a little bit of adjusting for us, more adjusting for him, right, on new material. The same for Mason Brody. Burst onto the scene at the Earthquake just a month ago, and a month and a half ago, if you will, and again, is here this weekend back and has been a front runner week in, week out, made it into the shootout. So Mason Brody, again, another driver to look out for. And you talked about Lennox Lockhart as well, who has, you know, his title shot is a little bit further away, if you will, than maybe a couple of the others. The number 14 Sodi Machine, he's 38 points back from first. And again, that gap is you know, maybe not as close as you would like, but it's also not too far away. 38 points, you can make that up in a heat race, right? That we're going to see this championship swing one way or another throughout the day today, and that's going to be one of the biggest things to keep an eye on. And he's actually just stuck in the middle of this group. So again, the 14 Sodi, one of the ones to look out for. Lennox Lockhart, Dutch Westbrook as well, still looking for a first national title. Jack Katowski as well, 81 points back on the Burrell Art. You know, the list goes on and on of these drivers that can get themselves there, and they've all really been consistent. It's almost the same, right? Race wins their name. Jack Katowski just became, you know, the newest race winner in Micro Swift. So it's going to continue to go forward, and we're going to continue to see more stars start to emerge from this Micro Swift class. And I tell you what, I said it earlier in the year, the majority of these drivers are going to move up to Mini Swift next year. That Mini Swift class next year is going to be stacked with the retention they're going to keep this year with drivers in their second, third year in the class, and again, all the drivers that are going to be first-timers, right, rookies in that Mini Swift class. So it's going to be exciting, but again, one of the most competitive fields that we have here this weekend.
As we watch them start to take the checkered, is there any last names that you'd like to shout out that you think might be a little bit unexpected, that you think that we're going to see become quick this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the 68, Bo Stowers, he's inside of the top 10 right now. Spencer Height as well. Those are names that kind of popped through the timing loop yesterday in qualifying. I have an eye on them. Brody Brown as well, the 17, Bennick. He's shown some pace, some top 10 pace throughout the week, and as well 2 weeks ago. You know, this is, like we said, almost everybody's home track. So Brody Brown, one of the ones that I have an eye on. Young lady, the 25, Liani Chavo. She had a great qualifying yesterday, career best quality. So she's really coming into her own. I'm excited to see what the 25 can do, see if she can take up the fight to some of the boys that are further up there. But yeah, a lot of names. And I know I kind of went on a tangent of all these drivers that we have, but yeah, we're going to see a whole lot kind of take place here today, and I'm excited to see it. And as we were talking about K Jr. earlier, we talked about championship with John Antonino, Travis Pettit, but there's one kid here who's kind of been spoiling the party for a lot of them, and that's Lucas Palacio.
Yeah, Lucas just came off of an incredible performance at Miami Grands, 2 double wins by 3-second margins. How do you think he's feeling coming into this weekend in comparison to everyone else?
Well, you kind of talked to him last night as well, right? He has a lot of confidence, very, very confident kid. And when you talk about OKN-J, that's a package that he's been running all year long over in Europe. So he's obviously going to be comfortable in that. He's won races across the pond. He's winning races here as well. And in KA, right, a package that he's ran at the club scene here now for a year and a half, 2 years almost for Lucas Palacio. So he's going to be confident at his home track, you know, with a material that he's very comfortable in. Yeah, he's out there giving it his all and you know, not really shying away from anything. So he's shown some really, really good pace throughout the weekend and throughout the day as well.
Another thing about Lucas that you might not even know, Caleb, because you haven't been with us for all of our Stars weekends this year, is that Lucas is not in our championship. He's here on a one-off. He's ready to just go take a win from these drivers.
You know, last year he raced a little bit of OKN-J to get ready for what was going to be his year in 2025 in OKN-J overseas, and he's not in the championship fight, but he's definitely been, you know, like you said, spoiling the party for a lot of these drivers. But just business as usual, right? When you're a racing driver, you're here to just win races, and I think we saw a lot of that out of him. Xander?
We did. Yesterday, no different than what we witnessed 2 weeks ago. Had him covered in practice, went out by himself. In quali, he was in a group. To be fair, but I think he still would have easily been able to be in the conversation for pole if he was out by himself like he was in FP4. So the fact that he was able to get a bit of a tow at that last lap off of his teammate John Antonino helped, and that's why the delta was the second biggest that we saw on the day. The only gap that was bigger was what we saw coming up later on with KA Masters to go, because Dusty Davis just had everybody covered, and he was truly on his own and no different than what we saw out of Lucas, dominant. And this is not a class that's seen anyone do that this year, Haley. Every time we've gone to send the KA juniors on the racetrack, you know chaos is going to unfold, right? They're going to be a little bit out of sorts. There's going to be a lot of kids that will get enough of a draft and will be maybe 80-90% there if they were out on their own trying to be the fastest single driver. And that draft brings that last 10% that you need to be able to play in the fight and battle. And unfortunately, it ends up with moments like this here where we see Oliver Nybert with a moment in turn 11. Not what you want it to start off a day where you've got nothing but racing ahead of you, but Lucas doing what he did 2 weeks ago and then starting it again here last night, I'm sure had to be a bit of a groan of despair for the 40 other drivers that are going to be trying to dethrone him here tomorrow night.
Yeah, Lucas is a driver that's coming in with a lot of momentum, but let's take a second to talk about Travis Pettit. We didn't get to talk about him earlier because, unfortunately, I was wrong. The juniors were not coming out on track, but they're out there now, and Travis is coming off of a win here.
Yeah, very good year for Travis, and I think myself and Xander have kind of talked about it, right? His progression this year, last year he was very good. He was running up at the front. At this event specifically, last year he was putting on some great moves, started to show a lot of maturity, and then you turn around to 2025 and he's coming out winning races, and he's shown that he's a race winner, right? He's a driver that's going to be up at the front every single weekend. And not only that, but you see that throughout a driver's junior career. Just you see that maturity start to come in, and I think we've seen that a lot out of Travis. So a weekend like this, looking for a championship, you know, I would assume he's not going to feel too much nerves. You're obviously going to feel nerves, and you're going to feel some sense of heartbreak, if you will. When you look back at the SCUSA Pro Tour, right? Last round of the year, you know, everything falls apart. And you turn around, Hungary, new team, and he hasn't really been a privateer for quite some time, since last year at the start of Stars, where him and his dad just pitting out of their trailer, and he has that back this weekend. We'll see how he does. Again, double classes. A little bit of struggles in qualifying, not putting himself in the right spot, but we'll see what he can do here this weekend.
That's the stable part. Even though he's gone to a couple of different environments, you know, a year ago, different go-kart. Most of this year with Speed Concepts Racing, now with Rawlson Performance Group. His dad's been his mechanic, his coach, right there for every single moment along the way. So while on the outside or on paper, yes, he's been in 3 different scenarios, he has still had his father Adam right there, and there you can see him lined up, ready to go to battle once again today with a shot at a title. And you mentioned the Pro Tour. He also had a shot at the USPKS titles too. And on that same scenario, that same finale-style weekend, coming in, having a chance, not quite being able to bring it home, ends up on the championship podium. But he's not had as good of a run into the weekend as he's got for the Stars Championship Series, with drops, if you take those into account, over the first 3 rounds. So you would assume everyone's going to have a better weekend here. Then he leads the points by 31 markers to John Antonino. But the real number, when you try to do the math on drops, is what anyone else's best of the 3 rounds coming in. That's what you have to outpunch, right? So you have to get more than 1,049 points. There's 400 points up for grabs. If you take his drop round out, right, and he's at a 735 total on his 2 best weekends. At best, he could go to 1,135, right? That would be if he won both of his heats. One is pre-final, one the main. 100 in the pre-final, 200 in the main, 50 apiece in the heats, right? So with that standings pre-drop, that number that John Antonino has is because Buddy has been super consistent. So he comes in with a pretty sizable cushion of what he could fall back to. He was only, his worst score, right, if you look at his drop score, 345, is only 55 points below the maximum haul on a race weekend. So Travis Pettit is going to need to put on the level of driving that he had last year under the lights today and tomorrow to even have a shot at being able to get to that 1,049 number. But, again, as different as the environments have been, it's still Travis and his dad on grid, on scales, in the tent. Doesn't matter if it's a pop-up or if it's off the side of a big rig. It's the same dynamic duo that's done well. And the same goes for John Antonino, right? His father has been with him all across the way. And just like Lucas Palacio, he's also had a good bit of European experience. He's actually in the same position as Lucas, where the reason we've gotten to see both of them equally as much here this year stateside and Buddy quite a bit last year is because they were too young to go into the class that Kart Republic wanted to put them in overseas. They've got kind of a similar format with the OKN packages getting introduced over there, where it's in the international events kind of viewed like how we look at KA to OKN, right? So a lot of times, for one of the big changes is they added a micro division so that you have a micro and a mini essentially in the open categories, but then they'll typically put kids in OKN Junior for 1 year, then they'll put them in OK Junior, and then they'll quickly put them up to OK Senior. So for Lucas and for Buddy, both of those 2 drivers are on the younger end of the junior age bracket here and over there, and I think by the back and forth experience, but still having dad with you, it's no different than what we talked about with Travis. As different as the environment around them changes, you have that stable, battle partner.
Another kid to watch this weekend is Isaac Malquit, as we see him shoot through our screen going into turn 1. He's had a great season so far in the Stars. He's coming in P5 with pre-drops. Talk about his season so far.
Yeah, his season hasn't been bad, right? You kind of look with the drops, 72 points, and again, it started rough, right? Just never really got the results when he was under the PSL Burrell Art banner. Went back to something that he was used to, comfortable in with Mike Doty Racing, and everything kind of started to come back to him, right? That race-winning pace started to come back to Isaac as well. So we're starting to see a lot of that. And again, I really think last couple of weeks has really just needed a little bit more luck, and I think the same can be said for a driver like Tristan Murphy, who's also 3rd in the championship. Coming into this weekend, they're actually right next to each other on the track. But yeah, to me, it's just a little bit of luck, and again, those closing stages of the race, just being in the right spot. within those last 3 laps.
I'll have to check the stats, but I think if Isaac Malquit ends this year with at least a win in either of the junior classes, he'd be one of a very select group of drivers that have won a race every single year of the Stars Championship Series history. He started with this series in Micro Swift, won the championship there, moved up, went to Mini Swift last year, was already fighting for wins and getting wins across the national calendar in junior, and then back again this year. He's not as young as Lucas Palacio, but he's still kind of just now as a veteran of the class with years to go if he wanted to, and it shows with the confidence that he's got. Second here in the first of the 2 groups from warm-up, and as we've shown on grid, we still have half of the fast ones to go.
As we wait for the Group A to roll out, let's talk about the whole standings in our championship pre-drop. Who's fast? Who can we expect to see take a win possibly?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about taking a win, we talked about Lucas. Pre-drops, me and Xander were actually going on about this yesterday, right? There's 400 available points on a weekend, and when you look at the standings with drops, if you're factoring in 400, again, a lot has to happen for these drivers to do. And really, mathematically, still possible, the top 10. Everybody inside of the top 10 from Pettit, Antonino, Murphy, Malquit, Weiland, Golseth, Katowski, Mort, Dupuis, Boer, all within a shot of a championship this weekend. That's obviously going to change after heat race number 1, where, you know, a lot of those drivers are going to be taken out of contention whenever you have that first heat, whenever they don't get those points. But even then, you need a lot, right? You need a lot to happen, a lot to go your way to be in contention for a championship.
I actually got to correct you and correct myself basically from yesterday a little bit, right? So kind of like what I was mentioning earlier, assuming that John Antonino would ride on his 3 weekends, that's the number that you need to be within 400 points of. So if you go 1,049 points back, and then you're not comparing on their pre-drop score, you're comparing on the with drop, so taking one of the 3 rounds out and then adding 400 to it. So if you go to 649 or above, that cut line goes right at Mad Max Weiland. Just out of reach of being able to better John Antonino's score is Nathan Golseth, so 6 on back. By the math, because John Antonino's been so consistent and that his worst score is still only 55 points shy of a maximum score weekend, that's why you've really only got 5 in contention here. But again, still, because he's 55 beneath the max score, realistically, there's a lot of guys that could get closer to that, if they got a 400 or even a 390 or a 380 on the weekend. They don't have to win everything. The main event is heavily weighted, and especially first to second is a big swing. So that alone will determine the championship, and that's what's kept this close. But you go from Weiland, who absolutely would need a perfect weekend, and basically he'll get locked out of being able to, get to Antonino's score, if he doesn't win, I think, his opening heat race. Because he's at 653. We said the number's 649. So if he doesn't get a minimum of, I think, that'd be 46 points out of heat 1, he's out, you're down to 4. And you kind of just slowly chip him away from there. But he's going to have a chance. He was one of 4, right? When we talk about Palacio's big weekend, he, Antonino, and Oliver Nybert were also well ahead of the rest of the field for the majority of that final, too. There was a big gap from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th back. They had enough time to basically reorder and then try to run down the race leader. Behind them, there were still big names. They just weren't as fast as Weiland and Nybert and John Antonino. But Travis Pettit, unfortunately, one of those last time we saw him, if you go back to the last time we saw him in the Stars Championship Series, exceptional. And especially with the way his summer's gone, it was one of the better cap-offs he had in mid-July off that hot June that he had at Quaker City Motorsports Park. Let's take you back, folks, and Caleb here, you can kind of tell a bit of the story from that packed house at Quaker.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't there that weekend, but watching the action, right, a lot of moves, and you said it yesterday, right, you really had to get your elbows out to go out there and to make moves, and we saw that throughout the weekend, just having to, go in deep into some of these long sweeping left-hand corners, and Travis just one by one, right, picking his moves and taking advantage of situations just like that where Antonino Golseth getting into it, and he's just really been able to kind of pick up those spots one by one. And when he's up at the front, he's been able to stay up at the front. He's been confident to lead races, to go out there and win races because he's been in that position before. And again, Dupuis showed pace throughout the junior classes. But, Travis didn't really shy down from that. It's really, kept his elbows out. And when it mattered most, across the line, was able to get the win.
He did it in spectacular fashion too, right? Hurricane Trav lived up to the nickname with that last corner move to rip the outside lane. He stayed down on the inside in the apex there, but you saw Nathan Dupuis covered low going into that final corner and then stayed low on the exit, pinched the run, and it's kind of an uphill grade back at Quaker coming off the last turn, and then it drops down in the run down to turn number 1. So that little bit of an incline just basically lengthens your straightaway or makes the motor bog a little bit more when it's going uphill versus a run downhill. And he took full advantage of it. It was fun to watch. It was fun to call. And it was cool to see the reaction for Travis in victory lane, especially because in the OKN Junior main, he had a shot at that one too. That ran earlier in the day, and then an hour later, he was able to mentally just get back to where he needed to be to go out and race for a checkered flag again. And it was a night and day difference in the scale line, right? From frustration to elation, especially to win a race like that. You know, every driver, if you ask them, Haley, how do they want to win or how do they want today to go? Well, they're like, oh, I hope I get through the start. I hope I get away. I don't have to mess with anybody, don't work with anyone, and I just drive away. But at the same point, as good as a victory as that feels, there's nothing like being able to win out in a last corner battle like that. That's another adrenaline high.
That's something that I was going to bring up to you guys, was that for John Antonino, our current pre-drop leader, is that he qualified P10. He's going to have quite the battle today.
Yeah. The good news is it's double points basically per position in those heats to get a better spot for the final, right? Qualifying 10th, that puts him 5th, so he's inside lane on the Group B heat races. Now, he's not locked in the outside lane group for that B pre-final, or A pre-final if he makes it. I hope he does. That's where they merge them, the points all together. So you may end up on the inside, you may end up at the outside for that pre-final, but 10th would normally suck here. Outside, 5th row, it bottlenecks right as they're about to get up to this first section here. It turns 1 and 2. I've seen the outside lane lose out at this track plenty of times over, Caleb, you and me both in the booth, but he's going to get the inside of the 3rd row in both of his heat races. That'll make that climb from 10th in the rankings a lot easier to get up to the top 5.
Yeah, best case scenario for him, right? With the average going 5th, going on the inside, going to be good for him to kind of put his head down, make some moves as well. And again, he was here 2 weeks ago, had that race-winning pace, has been up at the front, and we're going to see more of that out of John Antonino. And again, he's also one of those drivers who's been very, very consistent. I look back to 2023, interviewing him, which was at the Clash of the Club at the time at MCC, where he was able to get that win. He's been winning races since he was a rookie in this class, and again, just looking for a championship here this weekend.
Talk about winning races. How about we talk about the kid in second right now here in this warm-up group, Cole Medeiros, right? Big win in the spring, and he's kind of been, I would say, underrated in terms of how much press and love we've been given at the end of this summer to some of the kids around him. He hasn't been at all of the major American events. The Canadian and driving for the Canada-based Racing Edge Motorsports team has shown up at nearly every race weekend in the front of the field that he's been here on our screens. Just hasn't been here at every single one. Don't forget, he still could play spoiler in both of the junior championships in a variety of different scenarios, and he's also very fast. And as close as we are to just 2 weeks ago from Miami Grands, where you would say, all right, odds-on favorites to go and win this one is Lucas Palacio, then maybe that second group of Nybert and Antonino and Max Weiland. But the track changes, things change, the barriers are in different spots, the weather's a little bit different. The fact that we're on the same format, at least same track layout, also plays a big factor, Caleb. I'm sure you got a lot of drivers telling you this running the grid at Miami Grands, is the fact that that first session that we would run on a different layout than what we've been running, and especially if you would go backwards in some of the corners than the other direction would take you, meant you're laying down rubber and basically clearing a new path. We're putting the same rubber down in the same way day after day, and we've had nothing but heat and sunny skies, so it's not getting rinsed back off. It's going to be a very different main event than what we saw 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, funny enough, and that was one of the biggest questions when I did my rounds last night, talking to drivers, you know, hearing what they thought. The temperature dropped a whole lot, which I believe we're up in the 80s right now. Yeah, we're just about 78 degrees, and last night it was a 10-degree difference, right? 12. We went down to 66 degrees, you know, ambient temperature. So the track cooled off a whole lot. And speaking of drivers, you know, there wasn't much grip out there at night. So adjusting to that, staying ahead of that is definitely, I think, one of the pluses, because you're almost guessing what the track's going to feel like. So predicting that, making the right prediction, making the right changes is also important. And again, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear more and more drivers talk about it, because I did hear a lot about that yesterday when we get into the pro classes, right? Had long conversations with Diego, with Mateus, with Annie Rule, the Magic Kart tent, of what they expected the track to do and how they were staying ahead of it.
I've driven at night here a couple of times, a couple of club race scenarios and a couple of testing days that we ran under the lights as well. And it could go one of two different ways, and it's really hard to predict, right? Because it almost feels like a switch happens at a certain degree, say nominally 60 degrees. I've driven here at night where it's been just warm enough, and this track has been grippier than it was during the day. And for sure, the cooler temps, the motors are going to sing. They're not going to be as hot, right? But last night, we saw it. They were all out of shape. Even in the MG yellow classes that typically we look for them to peak at lap 3 or lap 4, they were sideways, like a moment like that, but no contact, where even the best guys were not able to get the tire to really come in until lap 6 or lap 7. Or if they did that, and that's what it showed on the time charts, it was by design, because they knew that's the way it was going to go because of what they saw with the classes leading in. To go, hey, look, man, you're going to need to stay out there for this whole session. AJ Myers did that, right? He didn't need to. He had a small margin, but he still went, as you called it, a cool-down lap, a repush, and on the final lap, he put 2/10 on the shifter field.
Yeah, even then, a lot of drivers were doing that, cool down lap. It was a very, very slow cool down lap, maybe 2 cool down laps, prep lap, and then you push. So it was kind of that from what we saw, it was 2 laps in between, fast lap, cool lap, fast lap, fast lap. So it was a whole lot of that yesterday as, again, we're getting ready for more classes.
Yeah, and we're going to take a moment after these results finish to hear a word from our sponsors.
This is Henry. Henry feels sad. Henry feels sad because it's time for his next big race and his go-kart is in bits. Henry doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing is the United States' #1 shop for all of your karting equipment needs. Henry also doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing can deliver anything from tires to race suits and even wheels directly to your front door or to the racetrack itself, quickly and efficiently, with tech support available 6 days a week. Poor Henry doesn't even know that Acceleration Kart Racing offers free shipping to mainland USA on selected product if you spend $200 or more. Do yourself a favor. Go to accelerationkarting.com and make sure that you are never left stuck on the pre-grid with Henry. Be smart and don't be like Henry.
Paulie Massimino wins the Wisconsin Grand Prix. James Overbeck on start number 2 gets win number 1 in OKN Stars.
On track or off, Brandon Jarskrek Racing delivers elite performance. Led by 4-time Pro National Champion Brandon Jarskrek, our team masters driver coaching, data-driven analysis, and mechanical precision at every national event. Contact us today at BrandonJarskrekRacing.com.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Are you ready to get...
And when you do the proper calculation that I should have done from last night, right, and you go off the pre-drop standings, so Adamar at 974 points, you subtract 400 from that, and you go to the next best, so that'd be, again, a 574. We could technically say all the way back to Chris Horan is eligible as of right now, or mathematically eligible to get into the title fight. 2 points outside of contention would be Evan Kozak, who enters the weekend in 8th. But had John Bonanno scored the win at Quaker City, had he not had the DQ in the main event, which again, he was first to the checkered flag, he would have had a 400-point score. He would have been massively ahead coming into this race weekend, and he would have had an 1,154 marker total, which would have put a lot more drivers out of reach. In fact, it would have taken Caligaro as the only driver that would have been in contention. So he wouldn't have mathematically locked it out, but had that DQ not happen for John Bonanno, not only would he have entered this weekend with 3 solid race weekends in the books, so 3 good points hauls, gives you a lot of confidence, say, hey, if I blow it, it's still pressures on everybody else because I can fall back on my opening 3 rounds. Instead, he now has to perform this weekend because he got basically 50% of what you could haul from a race, and if you took drops in, he's only out in front by 74 over Adamar. So it's still a lead in his case. Adamar still needs to outpunch what John can do this weekend, but they both are going to need to improve on their lowest score, or outpunch, I should say, their lowest score, so they can take it as a drop to end up as the champ.
Yeah, unfortunately for Adamar yesterday, he qualified 10th overall, so that's obviously, not going to help his charge. Fortunately for him, though, John Bonanno isn't, starting up at the front this weekend either, right? That's points that are up for grabs as well. Dusty Davis, a driver that we talked about yesterday, you talk about Trackhouse Motorplex, it's hard to not to talk about the former GM here in Dusty. And again, he's always fast and probably one of the most competitive K Masters class that we've had at Trackhouse in quite some time. Dusty's been the fastest of them all, and he's showing that already in warm-up. Stifler has been fast, right? Anthony Stifler, Lencho Mardan, Shambo, all these names that are getting themselves in there. We talked about Brian Boley, right? Debut weekend in the national scene, if you will. And again, just a lot of names, and that level is kind of rising up in the Masters class as well. So it's not going to be easy for John, and it's not going to be easy for Adamar either to work his way through the field starting from 10th.
And GM at Trackhouse Motorplex has the most relevance, but that's not, the only thing that Dusty Davis has to his accolades. A driver that made it all the way up to the likes of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series as well. You could spend this full 7-minute warm-up on any one of the drivers in Masters for the most part and go down their entire racing career, and you would be shocked, and I think a lot of viewers would be, of all of the accolades they've accrued to their point, and still be going out on the race on any given weekend that they can spare the time to go and compete for more hardware, for more trophies. And in the case of Adamar and Bonanno and Austin Queen with an outside shot, Miguel Mir an outside shot, even Anthony Stifler with the pace from this afternoon, he could technically win out. And if he does have some bad luck for the drivers that enter the weekend ahead of him in the standings, at minimum sneak onto the podium. He's only about 20 markers away from Austin Queen there in third, but 151 out from Bonanno with drops kind of factored, or really more so. He needs about 170 up on Caligaro's pre-drop score. It'd be a lot. Good part is you got 30 drivers. That's not normal for KA Masters. We touched on it. This is a big grid. It's been a big grid all year. It's one of the harder classes, Haley, to actually get beyond a home track race, to get these guys to commit. They have way more reasons to not show up to a weekend than any other division, right? The kids classes, they're trying to develop as a driver. They're going to go anywhere that they feel competition's good, because they're trying to either become better, to compete in the senior classes, and continue to go wherever they may want to go from there in karting, or more than likely try to make a run at going into the car world as well. In senior, of course, those guys need to stay at it, because the drivers that are winning are in the seat over and over and over again. Some of them are professionals. KA Masters is not the case. John Bonanno is a professional. He does help have a kart shop, Fulcrum competition up in the Northeast, but it's a lot easier for these guys to stay home. They've got other interests that take much higher priorities in life at this point. Dusty, no different. So the fact that there's that many is big. And we see it here, 25 with laps and warm-up so far.
And as the KA Masters are all done, I'm going to say so are we. It's been great talking to you guys and breaking down the warm-ups today. Any last thoughts from you guys?
Well, I'm just excited to see this record-breaking KA Stars field take to the racetrack, right? Biggest non-Vegas grid ever. in the history of the engine since 2017. Just about every big name we've ever seen wheel a KA100 go-kart is at least racing in KA Masters or KA100 Senior, as well as Junior this weekend. So to have this grid get ready to go on the racetrack, Caleb and I definitely won't be short on talking points. In terms of closing out from what we've witnessed so far, I just think it's going to get only hotter to the afternoon, and I think these guys are going to be hanging on for dear life in those heat races.
Well, I'm excited for the cooler part of the day, right? The night racing. I'm excited for that. I'm really, there's a different feel to when you get to be at a racetrack on a national weekend with hundreds and hundreds of people here this weekend with under the lights. There's a different feel. There's a different vibe here. And, you know, I can feel the tension. We're not even racing. We're just calling the action, right? We're bringing the excitement. And, again, it's pure excitement because it's a different feel here this weekend with the lights on.
Alrighty, that's it as we watch these KA Stars on grid go out for their first group. That's going to be it from us here today.
So a quick swap from the Perico stage to the broadcast booth for us. Haley Donaldson's making her way down to pit lane, and KA Stars with the first of the two groups are now on to the racetrack. We're getting ready to get into race formation. These drivers are as well, just as with every other division. The last tune-up, the last change, the last test run to see if you are confident enough to fight for wins and give you that last little bit of speed, hopefully, if you don't have it coming off of last night. And with how close it was in qualifying, with how crazy the fast group was in qualifying, all shuffling around trying to set themselves up for a tow, we got a bit of a shakeup in the starting grids for the heats today here in KA Stars. And we kind of thought this might happen, Caleb, with how many all-stars made up the grid there. So I was not surprised at all to see the fact that we had a lot of changes through the session. But I will say I was pleasantly surprised to see some new faces join the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, there was a lot of faces in as well. Speaking to Stars officials overnight, again, there was a lot of drivers with DQs at the end of the day yesterday. Most of those got overturned, again, after revisions over the rule book, which we talked about. There was updates. The reason for the DQs wasn't one of the updates, so they went back and they were here last night making sure they got everything right. So at the end, the qualifying should be, for the most part, fixed, but the biggest point that we have, Connor Ferris, to me, was impressive. You talked about it 2 weeks ago. He's been up there at the front. He's been inside of the top 5. He's been inside of the top 10. We just haven't seen that breakout from him where he's been the guy to beat. This weekend, last night, he showed that he's the guy to beat. The 988, to me, is the driver to look out for.
And it's so, when you have a class that always comes down to a head-to-head fight and not so much maybe, a runaway or raw pace dependent, mentality is key, and we saw that in his interview.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had a little smirk right before Haley walked up to him once he realized that he was the pole award winner, and then quickly after that he said, "No, man, we had the speed to win 2 weeks ago. We've got it again," and basically, without saying it, I'm going to go do it. And that's what you want out of your driver. That's what you need. Connor Ferris has a lot of laps and a lot of seasons under his belt. He's won on some of the biggest stages. His family goes back many generations. His grandfather was the president of the World Karting Association for a number of years and was the WK president I came to know when I first began to make my foray into national racing a little ways ago. Connor Ferris at that time was racing micro, moved to mini, moved to junior, and he has been a KA senior mainstay along with continuing to now, as he's gotten older, become that team leader and workhorse for the Team Ferris Racing family-run camp out of the Northeast. So to have a weekend where he's got the speed, I have to imagine is probably just as much relief, and I think that's also why he was maybe not elated as you would expect for a first pole of the season. Because when you are in that role, and I can speak to this as well from experience of being that kind of leader under a tent, you put unrealistic expectations on yourself every single session. And whether the other team members around the tent are also doing that to you or not, you still feel that weight. And so, you know, he's coming into every race weekend this year probably going, look, I need to perform. I'm supposed to perform. I'm supposed to toe the line and set the standard of how to act off track, how to take it serious, how to put the work in, and to go out and show that when you put the work in with us, with Team Ferris Racing, we can get to the front. And so, like you said, speed's been there. He's been a factor, but this is another level at least to start a weekend the way that he did last night. And on that same token, right, Brandon Jarsikrak Racing, last 2 weeks ago, the breakout stars, the likes of Cash Perkins, joining Paulie Massimino at the front of the field. And Jared Clark looked to be one of those early in the weekend before a crash in Heat 1 set him on the back foot. Last night makes up for it. He's the other pole sitter we'll have today. He's in the other group, so we won't see him on track right now, but he'll lead the B group to green, just coming up 300 shy of Connor's time. In terms of the drivers on the racetrack at the moment, Anthony Rivera was on the top step in the slow group. He had to go in that first group, and everybody else picked up a lot of time compared to him. He still held on decently well in the standings. He's going to start a little bit further back, but you can only do so much when you know that there's only one or two drivers that are in the same boat as you. A bad run in the final practice taking them out of the top half in qualifying. So he was out kind of leading the way in that slow group for the majority of the session. He'll, again, be one of the potential benefits of the fact the field's cut in half, less go-karts to physically pass to improve that point score. And there still were DQs at the end of qualifying, for what it's worth, mentioning as well, that did stick. And there was a lot of, I guess to explain a little bit of where we are right now with the lineups, and this is across the board. The majority of the disqualifications last night were on safety-related items. A big talking point in this sport, and this is something that the paddock has now become well aware of, is the fact that these go-karts, without the driver in them, are still hundreds of pounds. And even a 5-pound or 2-pound piece of equipment getting hit at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour can do a whole lot of damage, whether it's hit by a driver on track or by a spectator on the fence line. So there are very strict rules in place to say, look, if your weight comes off, if your battery comes off, we've seen parts come off like chain guards and the like, that is instantly going to disqualify you from the session. They need to know whose that is. So some of those disqualifications, for example, were for not having the proper cart number on the weight, or having multiple numbers because you raced under a different number in the previous race weekend. There's also some changes for this year that were adding a thicker washer, so that way the bolt that holds the weight onto the seat doesn't bust through and come off to, again, secure it. Battery, no different. You need to have the proper cart number on the battery, but as quick as the industry has tried to make sure that we evolve with safety and with rules that enforce and maintain that standard of safety, where last night's debacle and debate, and ultimately what I feel like was the smart and final resolution, that Christian Marsh, Joe Janowski, race director Alec Coates, and crew were all here late last night, and we're back here again early this morning trying to make sure that they do this by the book, is that if it was specifically outlined in the National Karting Alliance book, it would uphold. And if there was any kind of ability to misconstrue or say, hey, this doesn't explicitly say this is a penalty or not, that was waived. So that's where the corrections came from, is while all of these rules by next year will more than likely be amended to have those proper safety standards in place that they were checking for last night, Stars is staying basically on the common law that they've set from Quaker City with Chase Gassi at Lee's moment of, if it is a rule written in black and white, we have to stick by it, and we have to officiate the races by it. And if it is not, then in that case, we cannot penalize you for it. And so that's where the adjustments came. But there were some of those safety requirements that were perfectly outlined, and that's put some big names at the back of the field. Let's point them out to you here as we get this first group in. Of the names that are going from the rear in the heats today that were just on the racetrack here moments ago, I actually don't know how many were in this group. I think a lot of them actually are maybe in the next one. Peyton Phillips to the rear. Mason Surgener, Ben Lida, Remy Angel, Vladimir Protovich, Makai Winfrey, Evan Centeniello, and Enzo Vidmontien will all be rolling from the tail end of the field with no time scored per qualifying, and a DQ for the back four. So there was no times for Phillips, Surgener, and Lida, and Angel, and then the 4 DQs that did stick of the 67. Protovich, Winfrey, Centeniello, and the big name one there in Enzo Vidmontien. He'll roll tail end of the A group's heat races. Scored 67th of the 67. We know that kid's got speed. We know a lot of the drivers that we're showing you now here in the second group do as well. The time to beat is a 49.732. That was a burner by Anthony Rivera, by the way, Caleb. That was nearly 3/10 clear of that first group entirely.
Yeah, not a bad lap there for Anthony Rivera. And again, we do have a championship fight on our hands here. The driver there on your screen is in it. Alan Isambard looking for a championship here this weekend, as well as Oliver Hodgson, who is just fresh off the racetrack. And again, Oliver finished second on track with a 50.015. Only 47 points in between the two when you look at the standings pre-drop. 151 like you talked about with the higher drop. Oliver's is 349, so Alan needs to do a lot this weekend to try and get ahead of Oliver Hodgson. Doing the full season. Alan missed a couple of rounds. The same for Colin Lloyd, who started in the championship. Another driver that we talked about. And we've talked a little bit about rookie 964 Edgar Rodriguez getting set to roll out at the back. And we've talked about sophomore driver Jared Clark as well. The 916. The, again, first winner on the year in 2025 in KA Stars. Was impressive when he swept the weekend over at the Queen City Gambit.
So starting from the pole in his heats, he knows that he's going to have a lot of drivers that would love to follow him in this session. He's going to not give them the chance, at least by how he's lined himself on the grid. We'll have to probably wait a few moments before we see Jared Clark's times populate on the board compared to everyone else, as he is going to let the field take to the track here on the backstretch, probably make his way out the access lane right about now, if not even a little bit further away, to not give any extra intel or be around the pack, which that's in practice sessions, right? You've got pros and cons, and I'd say a 50-50 split based on what you're trying to achieve of whether or not you want to go out in a group of like speed drivers or even faster drivers than you, or if you want to go by yourself. Depends what kind of session you want to have, right? If you're trying to really get 7 clean track, on the groove, push laps, and see what the kart does and what the tire pressure does, and if you can notice any changes, well, then you want to go out on your own, right? Or, again, strategically, if you don't want to show your line or where you've got some strengths to any of the other drivers to see that they've got those weak points to work on. That's what we're seeing here with our runner-up qualifier and pole starter for the heats here with Jared. On the other end, you want to make sure that you're tuned up for racing. So we know that there's 2 parts to it. For Jared, though, going by himself with how fast he was last night, and we go back to how fast he was earlier this year, yeah, not a bad call.
Jared, kind of just describe to me what this feels like right now.
I mean, it's unreal. I mean, to be able to sweep the weekend like that, I mean, it's just, there's no other feeling like it. I mean, we've just been trying so hard for something like this. It's really rewarding, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, you have to do it with a really cool crowd, great people around you, great drivers around you. You got to battle with a driver that's world class, Oliver Hodgson. You know, kind of walk me through that battle and how you got to the front.
I don't know, it just the whole race, like battling with him, not the whole race, but you know, kind of like the first half. He's a really good driver. He's tough to, you know, beat, but I just kind of tried to keep my cool and, you know, did what I could to get around him, and you know, it ended up working in my best favor. So, I mean, I'm glad I just got to get away and wow.
Talk about the emotion of your first win. That's a memory that he and his parents, his family will never forget. Our round 1 winner let all the emotions finally go once he got to the scale line, and it was real. He had to work for it. He, like he said, swept the weekend session-wise, dominated the heats, got shuffled back in the pre-final, didn't lose his cool, drove back to the lead there. Had a bit of a fight in the main, but not all that much. He was just a cut above, and he was hoping to repeat that success when we got back to his home state 2 weeks ago. had the speed to do it, didn't quite have the all-together weekend to do it. This weekend, first session is done. But just like we mentioned with Connor Ferris, that's just step one towards getting onto the top step of the podium, Caleb.
Yeah, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, right? It's, it's hard to get your first because it's really difficult to get that second, to stay consistent. I would say it's almost even harder, right, to stay up at the front because, you like we talked about last night, it's addictive. That winning feeling is addictive, and sometimes you find yourself trying a little bit too hard to get that win again. Once that second one comes, then, a beast inside you is pretty much unleashed, and you go on a winning spree, if you will. So we're going to see that, I think, out of Jared Clark, and he's still looking. He's hungry, right? Walks around the track hungry, walking through, and again, compared to what I saw 2 weeks ago at Emmy Grand's, very calm, very relaxed. He's been on the frame table already this weekend, and again, still showed great pace, but very different demeanor to him this weekend, very relaxed, very patient, and I think we're seeing that in his driving already, right? Needs to burn your lap, he's going to burn it. So, yeah, just different driver this weekend, if you will.
Gavin Bailiff put it pretty well, too. He went through basically the same exact story at the Queen City Gambit. He was just one chapter further along, right? It was the first shifter national event following his big-time win in Texas, and said he felt like he, probably did put a bit more pressure on himself coming into round one at Stars, having to maintain that level of excellence. But all the greats know, all those that have won championships, that have won races, that you can't expect to win every weekend. You have to enter every weekend still with an open mind and not put too much pressure on yourself to perform, because you have to go back to that zone that you were in where you did win, right? That headspace that you're in after a win is not the same as what you need to be starting your weekend on practice day. You need to go back to that, and like you said, I think he's there now. I think with the adversity that he had to overcome 2 weeks ago and perform still in the main event to drive forward, I think that added a little more confidence, and now it's, okay, no matter what's thrown at me, I've been there, I've done that, I've won, I've lost, and I've had weekends where I could have won, and I didn't. And Alessandro DiTullio is a great example of a driver on the other end of that hump, right? We had a dominant display by him in the X30 Pro main event 2 weeks ago. It was his first win going all the way back to the SCUSA Winter Series from 2 years prior, but he also had not nearly as many chances to go back to victory lane since that time. So that two-year dry spell, if you will, isn't really fair to ADT. It was only a second weekend back in a go-kart in months, at least on a national race weekend for that matter. He spent this year on the sidelines coaching with Rocket Racing Company while he was full-time in the USF Pro 2000 division in the Pro Championships on the ladder to IndyCar. But now we're in the offseason for them. We're in the offseason for the main IndyCar series as well, which is why we were treated to Will Power joining us for the practice and qualifying last night, keeping the celebrity status alive from last year when Kyle Larson did the same in the Pro Stars category. But going back to ADT, fastest, now second quick, still around fast drivers and doing the opposite strategy of what Jared was, right? DiTullio, he's not so concerned about giving anything away as he's probably more focused on trying to find more. And he's behind one driver that knows this place really well, the Trackhouse Motorplex K Senior local series points leader and winningest driver on the year at this venue. If you tally in the national events, he still has the most checkered flags, Forrest Adams. And that young man is still looking pretty solid in this warm-up session, 11th, but he's been no-toe the whole time, only 3/10 off of Clark, so a little bit off of his teammate, but with the toe in the race, just like we touched on earlier, he would be able to easily be in the battle.
Yeah, for sure. And again, Davin was another one of the drivers that we were kind of talking about yesterday. He's shown really good speed. He's inside of the top 5 in this morning warm-up session. And again, we talked about the maturity of Davin for such a young driver who's, from what I believe Henry was saying, he's, still in middle school compared to these guys that are high school. Maybe
he's only just entered middle school.
Yeah. So
this is, I asked him back at Grands, I was like, are you in? He's like, first week. So he started the year racing headline categories against drivers that had wives and children and full-time jobs, or their full-time job was karting and had been racing longer than Davin had been alive, right? In the case of like a wily vet like Oliver Hodgson in elementary school. Yeah. Now at least he's in middle school. He's going to have his work cut out for him, though, here today. While he goes 5th in the warm-up, he'll start in the 11th position in the B heat race, 22nd overall for him in qualifying. Jared Clark by himself sends a big warning shot to the field. 49.713, fastest overall, fastest in the group. Pro Show classes are up next. OKN Junior when we return from Trackhouse Motorplex.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Florida kart racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson threw on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
Cat food marketing. $9.99 a month.
Dude, Caleb, wake up. Dude, we're live in 5 minutes. Let's go. Come on. What are you doing?
Dude, I'm so sorry. Xander had me in a cat food marketing meeting till like 2 a.m. last night.
Come on, man.
Do you have anything I can drink?
Dude, I got the perfect thing for you. Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Perico, non-GMO, gluten-free, kosher, magnesium, B12, B6,
Yeah, it's good.
B5, biotin, and zero sugar? Pericazo! Try Perico, made with natural ingredients, organic caffeine, and supports your metabolism. Try the new official energy drink of Kart Chaser.
Kart's back on the racetrack now here in OKN Junior. We are 5 minutes to go in the warm-up session. Lucas Palacio quickly to the top of the board. We're following his teammate here in John Antonino. Max Weiland just up the road from him. What a spectacular finish it was for Buddy at Charlotte for round one. Crossed the line first. Unfortunately lost it off of a single side pushback bumper that was deployed on the outlap. However, with maybe a bit of a chip on his shoulder in Indiana, he put on a show. Let's take a look back at it.
Buddy, where did you come from on that last lap? Are you kidding me?
I don't even know. I saw them battling. I didn't even think I could get there in time, but yeah, I got there. I mean, this KR was on rails on those last couple laps, so yeah.
I mean, right, that last lap was insane. Talk to me what it was like for in the seat. I mean, your dad's over here pumped up. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, so Max and Royce Vega, they got into each other a little bit into Scale Tower, and I was able to over under them, and then going into the double left, I got under the Travis Pettit, and then I was in second. And then through right here in the third to last corner, I got underneath on the exit. I got underneath Malka, and it was just game over from there.
The instant reaction from Buddy going from 5th to 1st on that final lap, Caleb. Like you said, we were dumbfounded in the booth. How in the world was he able to pull that one off? What a stunner win it was for him there. And he almost backed it up at round 3. He was 3 wide across the line for second with Nathan Dupuis coming to the checkers along with Travis Pettit. And while Isaac Malcutt, we thought, had the win, a penalty took him off the top step, and the 3 wide finish for P2 became the 3 wide finish for P1. So even with the penalty from Charlotte, John Antonino enters this weekend with a pretty sizable bit of momentum off the opening 3 rounds.
Yeah, pretty good gap. And again, this is factoring in the drops. John Antonino's drop actually being 225 points. He comes into the weekend with a 31-point lead, with drops factored in over Nathan Dupuis, Max Weiland, Cole Medeiros, Nico Katowski are the rest of the drivers inside of that top 5. So again, very close championship battle. Travis Pettit, on the other hand, finds himself 4th. Pre-drop finds himself 7th post-drops. And again, we're going to continue to look at these drivers, manage the gaps in the points, as well as our OKN pros get ready to go out. Haley's standing by with one of them.
Got Blake Nash here, your pole sitter. Blake, it's been a solid season for you so far. You didn't race with us on the first round, but it was a second in round 2 and a win at round 3. How confident are you feeling coming into this weekend?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Our package all year long has been really, really good in this OKN stuff. So, yeah, as long as I keep it straight and stay out of all the mess and just, focus on myself and driving my line, I think we have a really good shot at winning.
What do you think it has been this season that you've been so successful at the Star Series?
We had some past experience working with this OKN package a couple years ago, and I think a lot of the stuff that we found back then is still working now. And just the knowledge of that and the knowledge of how to set up this go-kart with this tire. Thanks to my dad and everyone under Nash, it's been working really well. So. Got to thank the team and got to thank Greg Bell from Mega Power Racing Engines. The power's been phenomenal every time I bolted it on. So,
are you happy with where the kart's at right now? I know you're fast, but is there anything else that you're out there searching for, or are you happy with the package that you've got now?
The kart's handling really well. We're going to try something with the gear this morning just to kind of get it out of our minds. But from the handling side, I've been really happy with how it's handled. I haven't really had to touch it. It's been out of the box really fast. So. We're going to try something with gear this morning and see how it goes.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
Top qualifier last night, but you're always wanting to go for more. We followed Paulie Massimino, who ended up second to him and might have had a shot to dethrone Blake for the fast time had he not caught traffic, not once but twice in that qualifying session last night, Caleb.
Yeah, it was just rough, and kind of spoke to him a little bit yesterday, last night actually, as soon as he came off the track. He wasn't too upset. He was like, yeah, I think we had, enough pace to be up there with Blake, but just couldn't put in a lap. But no worries. Out of Paulie, I think at the end of the day yesterday, felt like he could be up there when it mattered. Very cool, relaxed Paulie. You're not so used to seeing him like that on a race weekend, but very cool. And again, I'm pretty sure whenever it comes down to racing time, we're going to see a lot out of Paulie here as this day continues to go forward. Nathan Dupuis as well. We talked about Mega Power Engines, the power that they have bolted onto those Nash Motorsports machines. They're happy. And again, another driver on that, the Leading Edge Motorsports OTK of Isaac Malcutt, as well on the OKN-J side of things. Very good power for them. And again, just hearing from a lot of different drivers, right? This package has changed a lot through the years. Speaking of Ryan Rafa, he's kind of told me that they feel different than what they did 2 years ago, and I think that's just due to the development that engine builders have done here in the States to kind of get them up to par, get them up to speed, and I think we're seeing that change a lot since the integration of this package 2-3 years ago.
There was an inevitable evolution still, right, with OKN-J, because as close as it is to the OKN seniors, running at the lighter weight, running with the slight restrictions in the rule book to slow them down a little bit, it still is essentially a new package to find the exact performance to go and win races, and that's just going to be a continuous moving target, even for the engine builders stateside, right? We started with basically having all brought over motors from Europe, from the builders that have been working with the package before we had, but at that same point, the American builders have absolutely caught up, and right now, Lucas Palacio to Travis Pettit, close in times, less than a tenth apiece for the pair. Cole Medeiros, once again, just as in K Jr., fast in the warm-up and inside the top 5, definitely in the conversation for a win today. Antonino, little bit of speed to find. The good news is that logo matches the man in first. He'll be able to see where he needs a little more.
Yeah, there could be a good number of things, right, that he could be missing in John Antonino's case, so he'll try and look for that here as well as we get ready for the rest of our pro show warm-ups as we get ready to go into OKN Stars. And again, yesterday we heard from Blake. We heard from the confidence that he had. Speaking to a couple of other drivers, right, spoke to the Burrell Arts, Diego Ramos. They struggled a little bit, missed the first session, and they've kind of been on the back foot since then and towards the end, right? They were figuring out, we talked a little bit about, they were fast here last year, the developments they've done this year to updates and whatnot. So they've kind of gone forward and have evolved throughout the year, and they've really shown their pace in 125cc, I think, in the latter half of the year.
They've got this next session here in a matter of moments. We've only got 2 more sessions with you folks here today while we are free before we go to KC members only. That'll start with heat number 1 action at the top of the lineup with the Swift Stars. But still, before we go away, we've got OKN, Blake Nash, target on his back off of that performance in qualifying last night, along with Paulie Massimino, and plenty of championship conversations to be had. In fact, we've got the championship standings as well for you for the full top 10 with and without the drops factored in that we could take a look at as well as the field rolls onto the circuit now. So 7 minutes in total, once again, for the warm-ups, but they'll have added track time with the removal of a pre-final from their weekend. That affects the points conversation. It also, of course, affects the setup conversation as well. You're going to want to run full out from the moment you leave the pit lane here because you know your motos are going to be basically double the distance of this session to try and see if the cart peaks right at the checkers. Hopefully, at least, that's what you're aiming for, to get right at the midpoint or just entering the second half of those motos and hit your stride, because that's where you've seen them string out, right? In the motos for OKN and for Pro Stars, almost every weekend it seems like they flip-flop of having one class be a little more battle-centric start to finish, the other one a bit more drawn out and more pace-related, and we don't really see the storylines change or materialize beyond the winning driver until the main event rolls around. And then sometimes it flips on its head. We have a day, for example, like today we could with OKN. Maybe it's a bit more battle between Paulie Massimino, Blake Nash and company with how close they were in qualifying. And in Pro Stars, AJ Myers at 2/10 on everyone. Maybe he walks them today, and then tomorrow night we get a Pro Stars battle in the main, and the OKN race turns to be a bit like last year, where it was more of a will they, won't they dance that was pretty much in lockstep from start to finish between Paulie and Diego. You never know. But I would say that with Blake added in as the variable and Paulie having James Overbeck as fast as he's been this year, there's no doubt he'll be able to close the gap to where he was from qualifying and have a serious 4-way fight for the win by the time we get under the lights tomorrow night. And, well, we had definitely something like that a couple of years back. Let's take you to it, right? The OKN Stars main event that featured now once again, an ARCA Menard Series winner. Brent Cruz won at Bristol Thursday night. Today's Friday. A winner multiple times over in the karting scene, and he made a special appearance to join the Stars Series and take the fight to the field.
Brandon, what a fantastic fight you and Brent Cruz had throughout the whole race. But what did it for you? What allowed you to go ahead and take off from the field there and close it out for the victory?
Well, the car was just perfect, and I could just keep pushing and pushing. But when we got into the racing, I felt like it was hard, fair racing, and it was good. Like, Brent's a really good driver, and it was nice just to race against him.
Here with Brent Cruz. Brent, I mean, you and Brandon Carr were going back and forth all race long there for the win, kind of throwing haymakers back and forth that one lap. You got into it a little bit, Brandon. Talk about the incident there, and then your drive back through.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it battling, if I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like I raced him really clean. I drove him with respect the whole time, and we've always been cool. And I felt like he really raced me with no respect. Didn't leave me any room coming out of 8. Just drove right over me. Caused me to get a half bumper and a flat left front. And then continuously after that, he still ran me over in turn 9. So it's pretty tough, but definitely cool still coming out here and knowing I still have speed and being able to battle with these guys.
And that winner's mentality, that's the other half when it doesn't go the right way, right? That's why he did win from then on once again many times over and did again this week also. But it was a head-to-head fight between him and Brandon Carr, and there were no punches pulled, it felt like.
I mean, it's the night fight for a reason, right? So we saw just that. And again, you see how many people are out here this weekend from the drone shot, how many people are here, how many people are excited to be here. And the retention rate this year has been one of the things that has been, cool to see out of Stars Championship Series customers continuing to return. And again, this class as well, just under the 20 mark. So we're seeing more drivers start to emerge. The return of Ryan Raffa here this weekend. Speaking of that driver with Full Tilt Racing, Mike Doty Racing. What a great qualifying out of him. The best that we've seen him in recent memory. 4th at the end of the day yesterday.
And that was coming off of a major blow to the wall in the final practice session as well. They had to go to work to repair the go-kart, much less try to find more speed, and they obviously did. Ryan Raffa in the number 6, just like we talked with Cole Medeiros, a busy work schedule for him back home in the Northeast, along with helping his dad run the Full Tilt Racing program and the regional series they have. To come back out on this weekend, qualify up front, that's great. And now we've got them on track, and Haley down on pit lane with the Pro Stars.
You were P2 yesterday. Unfortunately, you were 2/10 off. Where do you feel like you were missing that?
Yeah, I think P2 was a good result yesterday. He deserved the pole. He was super fast. In the racing, it's completely different. We never know what's gonna happen, but I will keep pushing. I think we done what we had to do to improve a bit. So let's try our best.
And are you happy with the outside spot, or would you prefer somewhere else?
I'm happy with the first row. I think that's the important thing in shifter, to start in the first row, and I'm starting in the outside. I think should be okay. AJ usually starts good, I start good, so we see in corner 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's same scenario from last time, eh?
Corner 1.
They got to make it through. And there's barriers on the outside in this one. There was a lot of dirt and room, and they couldn't make it through that at Quaker City. A little longer run down to the first corner for the standing starts, and it's a totally different ball game on Pro Stars starts than single speed, right? You love to be on the inside lane at a track like this where it really bottlenecks pretty quickly, and the first corner is lengthy enough that you're going to probably pick up 1 or 2 spots if you're on that inside lane, like we touched on earlier with some of the drivers like John Antonino, who qualified 10th overall, but will get to start 5th in his heat races. But in Pro Stars, you want to be on the racing line. You want to be where the rubber is, where you got grip and traction to have that massive launch off the line. So what does that do for them down at turn 1? You can still see the rubber from the alternate layout that we ran 2 weeks ago, so it should be pretty grippy when they get down to the brake zone on the inside. But we've also, again, been continuously adding rubber to that outside groove before they turn into the corner, and that's where Mateus is going to get to start from for both of the motos today. If he's able to get the whole shot, he's going to need to really get a big one to be able to fully clear AJ before they get into that turn and it gets down to single file. But, again, he's got the grip on the outside. How dirty the inside will be, we'll have to wait. Good part is a full batch of heat races run before then that should clear a path a little bit down the bottom of the racetrack. You're again going to see them all still on the outside, all by themselves here in OKN Stars, so that'll go the way of Morgado potentially, and in this session specifically, goes the way of Pauly, flipping the script from last night, a half-tenth in his direction over Blake Nash, and a major overnight improvement for Chase Gassiet-Lee. The rookie joins them at the top of the pylon here, 3rd in Friday warm-up and only a 100th off his teammate. That's the other kind of variable for this year, right? Chase Gassiet-Lee was an OKN Junior last year, and while he gets pipped here at the line by a late lap for Diego Ramos, which is
going back to the beginning of this session, what I mentioned is you're hoping for. That's good news for PSL Karting. Beer Lard to be fast at the end.
And that's a huge turnaround for them as well, right? Speaking of Diego throughout the day, throughout the weekend as well, he kind of talked a little bit yesterday. They were kind of looking for the right engine to throw on the kart, and they didn't find it till the last session in qualifying. It was a different engine that they had used all weekend long. They finally got it down, and he said we were still missing a little bit on carburation, on gear. We could have done better, but he said, in order for us to qualify in the top 10 with inside of the top 5 with everything that we were missing out on, still a good qualifying overall for Diego. So he's going to unleash some pace, I think, in the pro motos, and I think we're going to see that later on today as we take a look at our grid getting ready to go out. We spoke to Adrian this morning. We've talked to Mateus. But the Maranellos, I tell you what, Xander, impressive for Justin White and Josh Conker yesterday in qualifying.
And man, would he have qualified better had it not been such a big field here for Pro Stars, and the fact that you knew that your best lap was going to come towards the latter half of the session. So every bit of the way they had to approach qualifying last night compared to earlier in the year with all the day races, and just the fact, again, that the grid was bigger meant you could set a gap that you thought was going to be good on lap 1 or even lap 2, and you might catch traffic on the money lap, which ended up being really lap 6 or lap 7 for the field. And with many drivers modulating their lap times to reset gaps throughout the session, it was hard to judge, and I think that's going to make the motos very interesting in this category because along with Justin White, the Magics beyond AJ Myers were quick in that final practice. We just saw CJ Bowman, who had the Hard Charger Award, and now Robbie Boydeshow making his first Pro Stars start, his first National Shifter start of the year, taking the seat from Andrew for the weekend, and ready to build on the 1-2 momentum they had from their qualifying effort at Quaker City. But they're joined by the likes of some of the local hotshots, and one of them on screen there, Mateo Pappas, his Pro Stars debut this weekend, and he was fast, very fast in the practices, went out right off the rip going to the top of the pylon on lap 1. He doesn't start, unfortunately, on position number 1. That's the number 1 plate of the Magic Man himself, AJ Myers, but he's got a whole lot of good company in his camp with the Red Army to learn from, like last year's SCUSA Pro Tour champion and a potential Stars champion as well for Mateus Morgado. If he can pull it off here this weekend, it would give him basically every accolade -1 if he does it. And then, of course, he'll have a shot at it in about 2 months, and that's, of course, the Supernats, where he led a good amount of laps in the season and was about to lead the final few before contact with Marcus Kayak, fighting for the win, took him and a Maranello into the wall. He wants to win out this weekend, though, under the lights. It's a good test session for him for Vegas, too, Caleb. We haven't even talked about that. The temperatures they're getting at night are going to mimic what we'll see in the desert in November.
Yeah, correct. Very similar to what we're going to see. Again, it's going to be a lot colder in Vegas. Air is going to be thinner. As one driver with issues here, that's the 245.
Gabriel Holguin, one of the Velocity Racing and Isambard Performance Motorsports Sodis.
So that driver's out, and issues for Justin White as well.
Oh, no. Not what you want to have. All the momentum from FP4, then to get a bummer run in qualifying that puts you in the middle of the field, and now trying to refire. See if he can get it back going and get into gear. He will, but it looks like,
I think maybe the spark plug boot came off.
And that is a common reason why the drivers warm up sessions, because they're going to take these go-karts into pieces after a night like last night and then put them back together. So you want to make sure that you tightened everything, checked everything, and that even if you did secure it, that the way you put it back together, if it was a little bit different or if you changed a part, right? Another one of the many rulebook updates for the weekend that was released is, while you are, of course, going to suffer a penalty if you went to a backup motor for the heat races, you are allowed to change some things. Changing the engine gives you a 10-position grid penalty for the next session. Carburetors and exhaust, however, can be changed without penalty if the current sealed component or the current sealed carburetor or exhaust passes technical scrutineering. That's a new, one of many new updates for the weekend, and this is across the board in all classes. So you can go to another carburetor, you can go to another exhaust pipe if you prove that the one that you were originally on and was sealed still passes tech. So that's another tool in the box for every class, micro up to masters, that you have this weekend. Still having the penalty for the actual engine, but the pieces to it, you can, some of them now, make an adjustment or a swap without receiving a penalty. And the single-speed classes with less components to them, no gears, right? Water-cooled for some, air-cooled for most. The carburetor is one of the most important pieces on that motor, getting the exact fuel mixture that motor wants to perform at its best. And sometimes trying out a different carb might run at a different setting than even the original one that you had, and it could make a world of difference.
Yeah, correct. And again, big talking points for a lot of drivers. Spoke on that to Diego Ramos and a couple of more. Going back to a little bit of the storylines that we have here this weekend. Gage Korn, again, one of the rookies that's been very, very impressive in Charlotte. And, you know, he's had good pace throughout the year, looking to get himself on the podium here this weekend. Another one that honestly has impressed me a lot, 15-year-old CJ Bowman. Doesn't look 15 because he's a lot taller than me, obviously. The 228, like you said, hard charger, got himself within top 5 finishes. Still looking for that first podium for him as well. Spoke to him last night, and he just says, you know, it's been a year to the date of my first shifter race, and a year later, everything's really starting to click. And you're seeing that with his driving as well, right? Starting to put everything together. And again, with the support of Magic Kart, with the support of a guy like AJ Myers, you're starting to see CJ Bowman really coming to his own.
And good CJ Bowman this weekend take his first hardware in the Pro Stars category, truly his first full season, a partial season last year, and what a steep learning curve it is to get behind the wheel of one of these 6-speed, 40-plus horsepower machines. He's come to grips with it exceptionally well for the races for the limited amount of laps that he's had on it and the limited amount of races he's had in it. Same goes for this duo, right? Coming back here for year 2, Charlie Steins, Eli Fox. I wish for their sake, I love getting to see small teams go to war and be able to compete. And they did so with Charlie stealing the pole in Texas, winning a heat race as well, nearly won both of them, hanging in the top 5 through to the end of the weekend. Eli didn't have good luck there, and sadly it feels like he's had a cartoon anvil dropped on him almost every single race weekend. His home race, the King of the Castle, went out on the outlap. He has been right neck and neck with Charlie almost every single session in terms of speed, and even right now you'll find both of those GP karts right near each other. Unfortunately, they're down the board, 17th and now 20th. But if they can get the speed, man, would it be cool to see Eli Fox finally get some good luck going his way.
Yeah, for sure, he's been busy. You know, that kid works, I think, as hard as anybody else, always at a track, whether it's in a 206, in a KA, over at Route, you know, in a shifter, you name it. Eli's always out there. As Charlie actually just pulled off, it didn't look like he went into the pits.
That was odd.
Yeah.
That was a big moment there. Charlie Steins.
Not sure where he went.
Turn 11. Exits in the hidden trap door. Meanwhile, let's pick up another duo. How about the Marinellos, though? Josh Conker and Gage Korn. We touched on Justin White. Conker is the one that's got them a checkered flag here this year, and he wasn't even supposed to drive. And yet, in every weekend that he's had speed of, at minimum, to compete in the top 10. And when the chips were finally starting to go his direction in Cincinnati, he capitalized with a spectacular move to get the lead with just a handful of laps remaining over Quarantine Russo and the Ital Kart. And while the MCC Kartplex wasn't a part of the Stars schedule this year, last year it was, and he was very quick there, but had a rib injury that he was trying to nurse through the weekend and ultimately couldn't complete it. But he was also fast before he had to park the car and reset to the end of the year and to the upcoming events. The Canadian has found himself now with Youngblood joining him here on the pylon. Gage Korn, 4th quick. Conker, fastest. Justin White, 6th. Huge for the Carlos Racing Engines Marinello USA tent. I believe they've got their biggest on-record team turnout this weekend as well. Good to show up and show out with both big numbers and big results here. Josh Conker, your fastest driver from warm-up in Pro Stars. Nope. Looking down the order, though, AJ Myers not far ahead of Gage Korn, but also not far behind Gage's teammate in Josh Conker. Adrian Reddington also sneaks his way up there, only his 5th ever time on this circuit. He goes second fastest in the warm-up. Mateus Morgado rounds the top 5, a 10th split. That's a whole lot closer than last night. Hopefully they stay that close and we get a heck of a race in Moto number 1. We'll see all that and more as we switch over to KC Premium members for the heat races. The Stars Championship Series finale, the night fight. First race of the weekend will be the Swift Stars for their first of 2 heat races coming up at the top of the hour.
Are you stuck with your kart racing? Not sure the ideal kart setup? Or going to a track for the first time? Well, Kart Class has the answers for you. Our online portal has a wealth of experience and knowledge to help your kart racing. From kart setup advice to track guides that are targeted specifically to your circuit, or the driver coaching aspects with mindset, racecraft and driving techniques. If you want to take your karting to the next level, visit us at kartclass.com.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion Paulie Massimino. Kart rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome, from Briggs 206 to Mini to KA100 and X30. With in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage review, and lead follow on-track sessions, each private coaching session will see you end as a more complete driver than when you started. Book your coaching session now.
Hi, I'm Jackson with Alpha Race Hub. Alpha is an all-in-one motorsports software solution that can solve all the software problems you need for your track, facility, or series. Alpha can cover all your software bases, from online registration, digital e-waivers, a proprietary timing and scoring software, incident management, automated points tabulation, tire and barcode scanning. We even have our own mobile timing app and rental kart activity management software. If you're looking to consolidate your motorsports software solutions, reach out to us at alphatiming.co.uk.
You know, I'm really starting to like this go-karting thing.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, can I show you this cute dress I just got?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, it's so cute.
I just love shopping.
I love shopping too.
Oh my god.
Wait, do you guys say you like shopping?
Of course.
Well, dude, I have the perfect place to do that at. ShopPayCara.com. At ShopPayCara.com, you can get free shipping on orders $200 or more. You can get anything you want, like MXC rims, gloves, rib vests, shoes, anything that you need, all at ShopPayCara.com.
Who is he talking to?
No idea.
But we're gonna have to check it out. Sounds like a great deal.
Sure does.